Hello. All right. Welcome to the afternoon session of this room. I hope everyone's fine. Have you eaten already? Okay. So, good afternoon. I'm Abigail Balbin. I'm from Caraga State University of the Philippines. And it is my pleasure to be your session chair for this afternoon session on energy, environment, and climate policy. So this session highlights innovative research addressing energy transition, environmental sustainability, and climate resilience across the ASEAN region. So each presenter will have 10 minutes for your presentation and then followed by a 5-minute question and answer. Okay? So without further ado, let us welcome the first presenter on accelerating EV adoption in ASEAN through creative destruction and policy design, a case study of Brunei Darussalam, to be presented by Muhammad Arif Swazan bin Bujang. Okay. Welcome, sir.
So let's just me go straight to my presentation. So yeah, my topic is on accelerating EV adoption in ASEAN through creative destruction and policy design. So this was a paper that I come up with for the past 2 years, I guess, and it was a case study on Brunei Salam. And why I come up with this topic is just because I studied the ASEAN Masters back then, and it was my passion to do a research on larger ASEAN context and try to focus it more on Brunei because I don't think Brunei have a lot of case studies in my country as well. So why we talk about EV as well is just because ASEAN is one of the growing economy here, and urbanization, motorization, it's growing rapidly, and there should be some sort of research that focus on this rapid motorization, I would say. And I use the core concept of creative destruction just because, number one, it focuses more on how countries help to build the EV industry at a larger scale while destroying the older policy that support motorization from internal combustion engines. And in Brunei, it's also that case. And why I focus on Brunei, because comparatively, compared to other countries in ASEAN, Brunei is still largely supporting ICE. They try to move forwards into electric vehicle, but some of the policies are still, yeah, they come up with policy like we have this Brunei climate change policy, but it's just like not supporting enough. We don't have like any much more smaller policy going on that help to build that industry at large, because their focus for the Brunei climate change policy last time, what they focus on is to get 60% of electric vehicles in Brunei by 2030, which currently we only have, as of 2022, the research says it's only 19 EVs out of thousands of cars there in Brunei, right? And the way I frame the research is that I started with to have a look at the larger scale at in some of the successful EV market, I would say. So number one is in Norway. Why Norway is just because if you talk on the Western context, Norway have very high adoption on EV. And they come up with all this welfare kind of like model, but just because on how their taxation system works, and they managed to leverage that to allow high EV adoption over the years that they push EV to the market. And as of for China, it's a Eastern context, and this is where we comes in. So we just look at both Western and East side. And in China, they use a very stringent, very top-down policy approach just to push the EV into the market and supporting the local ecosystem. And they know, and apart from other things going on in their country like pollution, so they leverage this EV market just to push down all these other environmental damage they have done and just to reverse it as well. So some of the theoretical framework that I use for this paper for this research is that there's like four part of theoretical framework. Number one is creative destruction. So this is where Joseph Schumpeter he have he have this concept where it looks at transition of ICEVs to EVs, and he looks at the policy context out of it and how some of the new policy comes about, disrupt the established industries. So established industries includes the ICE's internal combustion engine. Social technical system is the other overview that I bring about, just because in when you talk about sustainability transition, you should also look into the social context, the consumer behavior, on how you use electric cars, for example, or internal combustion engine. And in these transition studies, so I think when you talk about sustainability in general, you have to really into the social context as well, because if the social context doesn't understand on some of this new technology, it's really hard for you to push for transition, especially when you talk about EVs, because EVs, I think you guys know already, when you talk about EVs, there's always this debate where which one is better, either internal combustion engines or electric vehicles. Techno innovation, it's more in the niche market. So how the new technology is brought about in the market, and the multi-level perspective. This is where I combine all these three theoretical framework to see at a very umbrella view of everything's going on in the market for this one. And as for the analytical framework, I use Sustainability Transition by KV Ma and Kern 2016, where it looks at this. They use the creative functions and destructive functions, where they see on some of these key metrics under creative and destructive functions, and you see a like the policy document from each countries and segregate that data and information accordingly to this creative destructive function. So basically, if you can, if some of the countries have all these creative and destructive functions going on, it can help to transition very well for the market. And this is how it looks like in action, actually, for some of the theory and the analytical framework going on within all this multi-level perspective. Yeah. And so the methodology that I use for this research is, number one, I do a document analysis from Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Why I focus on these three countries, because these three countries have very different level of EV development going on. And for Brunei, I do a document analysis on the land transport master plan for Brunei and Brunei climate change policy. Indonesia is the presidential regulation number 55 in 2019, and MEMR, which is the Ministry of Environment and Mineral Resources, regulation number 13 of 2020, and Malaysia, the National Transport Policy 2019 to 2030, and Malaysia Low Carbon Mobility Blueprint 2021 to 2030. So some of the benchmark that I found from Indonesia is that they have a very strong financial incentive, R&D support, and local manufacturing mandates to build the new EV system on the surface. Yeah, this is on the policy level, not really on the implementation. And as for the destructive part, they also have some sort of like very ambitious phase-out targets for ICE, especially for motorcycles by 2040 and cars by 2050s. And why they focus more on motorcycles is just because of the culture. They use a lot of motorcycles as well. In Malaysia, it's very comprehensive between duty exemptions on they reduce the tax for the EV imports as well, and some of the destructive part, it's more stricter emission targets. So they really use these tools to allow more EVs in the market. And as of for Brunei, so some of the things that I found is that it lacks some of the robust measures, such as demonstration projects and tax exemption, just because the market in Brunei, we don't have this very comprehensive tax systems going compared to like Norway, Malaysia, and Indonesia, and even China as well. Prices are still heavily subsidized for fossil fuels, for example. When you compare to like Norway, they have like very high they have very high carbon tax as well. And entrepreneurial experimentation is also very lacking. So we don't have a very cohesive system going on just to help the EV market Yeah. And the destructive push. So this is one of the things that also lacking in Brunei. They don't have carbon tax that even in the current climate change policy, they don't have this clear um, clear notes on how they will implement the carbon tax as well. And still, even though they want to push for electric vehicles, 60% to the market, they still have yet to come up with any sort of like phasing out subsidies for fossil fuel, because basically most of the roads, most of the cars on the road are still fossil fuel based, and of course the economy as well. We're still heavily reliant on oil and gas, so which is one of the things that Brunei are still lacking in the destructive push. And some of the conclusion that I found out is that maybe is that Brunei case, it does have a very ambitious targets, but are insufficient. And accelerating EV adoption requires a deliberate and balanced policy mix that embraces both creation and destruction. So, which is Brunei still don't have yet. It have these ambitious targets, but nothing going on. And for ASEAN in general as well, it needs to be. We need to build a very systemic and very creative policy going on just to support this EV implementation and actively drive the destructive technology, come up with this destructive policy where we allow for the EV market to mature in our country. And energy and transport policy should also be go along together, because when we talk about transport, usually I think when you talk about sustainability also, it's much more better if you try to integrate these two, because transportation actually takes a lot of energy, and if you combine this well together, I think it's much more easier for you to implement your um, vehicle decarbonization. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that insightful discussion. Now we would like to open the floor for questions. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you very much for your very important research. I'm just curious, in Brunei, is there like, when you talk about EV adoption, there's a social aspect to the perception of
Mm.
EVs. So
Mm.
it's important to highlight range anxiety.
Correct.
I'm just curious, for those users of EVs in the future, like, will they cross the border? Something like that? Because when you compare it to other regions in the ASEAN, one main reason why people do not adopt electric vehicles is because the range is limited. But eventually the technologies are improving. I just want to know, based on your knowledge and your research, like the social aspect of it. Thank you.
I think range anxiety, um, maybe as of for I'm not an EV user yet, and EV still not that much still in Brunei, because comparatively the price is quite similar to internal combustion engines. So which is why this kind of thing is not debated much yet. But when you talk about superchargers, for example, I think in Brunei we still only have like one or two superchargers. So it's not that much. When you try to see when you see the data as well, like the car ownership, it's quite high. And if everyone goes for EV, I think we definitely need a lot of superchargers. But some of the conversation that I've had in Brunei, on the ground, yeah, range anxiety is not really an issue. It's just because most people drive in urban settings, urban areas, and I think like 90% of Brunei live in urban settings as well. And our country is very small, and we don't drive a lot. I mean, like we drive a lot to anywhere, but it's just that the kilometers covered is not that much compared to maybe Indonesia or Philippines. Like our urban settings as well is not that packed and dense as well. So currently, that's why it's also hard for people to use EV as well, the penetration, just because there's no reason for you, there's no other incentive for you as well, just to transition to EVs. So, so yeah, I hope I answered your questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, sir. We have another question.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. So I'm more curious as well with regards to, are there any EV industry players already in Brunei, or is there like, since you've also mentioned like a lot of our EVs are most probably coming from China, is there any foreign interest, like for example, China giving more incentives for Brunei to have this EV infrastructure as well as EV adoption to the industry?
So far, there's no other incentive, either from private sector or public sector as well. But the way they sell EV right now in Brunei, it's either number one, they package um, the small chargers at home as part of the pricings for the cars. So you don't have to go to superchargers to charge your car. And most drivers, I think it's enough for them to cover, like, so if they charge at home, it's much more easier to cover all the kilometers that they need for each day. That's how they sell it at the moment. Other than that, because we're still fuel-based economy, fossil-based economy. So some of these EV players, especially from China, I think most of it is from China. I don't heard much about from the German players as well. They sell more on the hybrid cars, the PHEVs, because I think some of the car users in Brunei, we still prefer to use fossil fuels because definitely it's much more cheaper. Just comparatively, the price in Brunei, I think for a RON 97 for fuel, it's like around 30 cents US dollars per liter. So which is why it's still much more appealing for people to use some sort of like a mix in between.
Okay, so thank you very much,
Thank you so
sir,
much.
for those responses. So let us once again give a round of applause to Mr. Mohammed Arif Swazan bin Bujang. Okay, let us move on to the next presenter on spatio-temporal analysis of precipitation patterns associated with El Nino Southern Oscillation in Caraga region using Google Earth Engine and remote sensing, to be presented by Engineer Arturo Cauba Jr.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abigail Balbin, for that introduction. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm going to present our study entitled Spatio-Temporal Analysis of Precipitation Patterns Associated with El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO, in Caraga Region, Philippines, using Google Earth Engine and remote sensing. By the way, I'm Arturo Cauba, and I'm from Caraga State University in the Philippines. So basically, this work explores how this ENSO affects the rainfall patterns using satellite data processed using the Google Earth Engine. Clicker. Yeah, so short introduction about ENSO, or the El Nino Southern Oscillation. It's a global climate phenomenon that emerges from variation in wind and atmosphere surface temperatures over the tropic Pacific Ocean. And this ENSO is also a key driver of climate variability, which influence the rainfall across the globe. And in the Philippines, it causes drought during El Nino and also heavy rains during La Nina. And understanding these effects, especially in this region, helps in better planning for agriculture, water management, and disaster preparedness. Hence, the objectives of this study is to um, conduct a spatio-temporal analysis of this precipitation in Caraga, and specifically, we validated the CHIRPS, or the Climate Hazards Group infrared precipitation with station data, which is acquired from the Climate Hazard Center with the data from PAGASA, which is the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomic Services Administration. We validated that and then map the rainfall distribution from year 2014 to 2020. So it's about 6 years coverage. And we also identified trends using the Mann-Kendall analysis and computed the standardized precipitation index, or SPI. And we also examined the correlations between the SPI and the multivariate ENSO index, or MEI. So here is the study area. The study area is the Caraga region, which is located in the northernmost part of Mindanao, which is also the southern part of the Philippines, and it consists of 5 provinces. We have here Agusan Sur, Agusan del Norte, Surigao del Sur, Surigao del Norte, and Dinagat provinces. And its diverse terrain, from coastal to upland areas, creates varying rainfall patterns that respond differently to these ENSO events. And here's the methodological flow chart, which started with collecting the necessary data. We have the CHIRPS data, which is validated through the Pag-asa rainfall data, and we process that through the Google Earth engine. Then after that, we derive the standardized precipitation index monthly, quarterly, bi-monthly, and annually. And then we do parametric tests to identify patterns of this precipitation through man-candle test and the sense slope test. And then after that, we correlate this SPI to the multivariate ENSO index. And then we identify if there's a correlation between these two variables. And here is the result of the data validation between the Pag-asa rainfall data and the CHIRPS data. So basically, it gives us a correlated a value, a person's value of 0.917 with a p-value of less than 0.00, which is statistically significant. So that means there is a correlation between rainfall data and the CHIRPS precipitation data. It's a positive correlation. And here is the result of the annual map of precipitation from 2014 to 2020. So the annual map shows clear interannual variability. In 2017, there was a notably wet, especially in the provinces of Agusan del Sur and Surigao del Sur. And in contrast, the El Nino years exhibited below normal rainfall, particularly in interior and coastal lowlands. And here is the monthly precipitation in the year 2014. So there's a lot of data that we generated. This is from 2014 until 2020, monthly precipitation maps. So yeah. And next is we perform, as I mentioned, I performed statistical tests to determine the trends or patterns of this precipitation data. So the man-candle trend test revealed mixed trends across the region, with some areas experienced slight increases in rainfall, otherwise showed declines, while most areas had no significant trends. And this suggests complex interactions beyond ENSO alone. And here is the man-candle trend test p-values. As you can observe, there is no significant, statistically significant values. The significant value is less than 0.05, and the lowest value is 0.072. So that means there is no trend or pattern in the precipitation. And here is the result of the derived standardized precipitation index, or the SPI. So we generated the SPI values at monthly, quarterly, bi-monthly, and annual month scales. So shorter SPI values capture quick responses to rainfall changes, while longer ones reflect long-term drought or wet conditions. And here is the SPI maps monthly. Here's the SPI maps for quarterly, SPI maps for bi-monthly, and SPI maps for annual. And here is the result of the correlation between the SPI and the multivariate ENSO index. So as you can observe, there is a negative correlation between the SPI 136, but there's no significant correlation for SPI 12 and MEI, which has a p-value of 0.197, which is basically not a statistically significant value. So in conclusion, ENSO significantly affects the Caragas rainfall, especially on short time scales, which is annual and quarter. 2017 emerged as the wettest year during our study period, and the satellite data processed in Google Earth Engine provided efficient and reliable for regional climate analysis. And here is the recommendation. We recommend integrating more indices, for instance, the SPEI, or the Standardized Precipitation Evapotranspiration Index, and the PAMERV Drought Severity Index to give emphasis on climate variabilities and identify drought conditions, particularly for these longer study periods. Yeah, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Kauba, for presenting such a relevant climate analysis using geospatial technology. Now let us open again the floor for questions. Anyone? Nothing. So let me ask the first question. Okay, sir, how can this study be of importance to the energy sector?
Okay, thanks for that question, ma'am. No, so basically, my study is more focused on the environment, but when it comes to energy, this since we explored about precipitation and ENSO, which are strongly related to temperature, and we all know that. There are a lot of sources of energy, for instance, the solar energy. And the main variable that we can consider in determining areas where we can install solar panels, for instance, are the temperature. If that areas have high temperature, for instance, as shown in the map, then that would be an indicator that that particular area is indeed suitable for implementing such energy, like the solar energy.
Right? Any more question from the audience? No more? Okay. Thank you very much again, Engineer Kauba. Let's have another round of applause for Engineer Kauba. We'll now proceed to the next paper on decarbonizing urban rail energy conservation strategies for Jakarta Metro, to be presented by Ms. Niputu Wulan Romyaningsi. I hope I got it right.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, fellow presenters, the chair, and facilitators. Um, so I know this time slot is a bit of a challenge because it's post-lunch. I believe that all of us needs a nap more than a talk. So I hope my presentations will not induce the sleepiness of yourself. So hopefully it's engaging. So my name is Wulan Romianingsih. I am a sustainability consultant at Jacobs. Today I'll share some insights of our recent project in Indonesia, which is close to the heart of climate and commuters. Decarbonizing urban rail, energy conservation strategies for Jakarta Metro. Oh, um, sorry, I don't know. Okay, so Jakarta is a home for more than 10 million people. It's growing fast, so is its metro system. The urban rail system itself is a sustainability win, although it consumes significant amounts of electricity. For Indonesia, where the grid is still fossil fuel heavy, that means high scope 2 carbon emissions. To align with the Indonesia net zero commitments, Jakarta Metro is committed to decarbonize 75% of its energy by 2030 and eventually 100% by 2040. So it's very ambitious commitment. And our project missions was to help this company to develop a strategic roadmap to achieve that goal. To tackle this, we combine both engineering and economics because saving the planet also needs a financial sense. Our methodology includes energy modeling to understand current and future electricity use, and then techno-economic analysis to evaluate cost effectiveness, and greenhouse gas emissions calculations to know the environmental impact on the aspect of carbons. Think of it as a building sustainability GPS. So we map where Jakarta Metro is now and where it wants to go, and then the smartest road to get there. Let's look at the scale of the challenge here. So the current electricity use, the baseline, the 2024 data, the figures is more than 60,000 megawatt hour per year, and projected by 2060 it will jump into more than 700,000 megawatt hour per year because of the expansions and the growing urban populations. That's more than 12-fold increases. Emissions in 2024 is estimated to be 43 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents, and without action, By 2060, it will jump into more than 500,000 tons per year. So during this period, the cumulative emissions will reach almost 14 million carbon dioxide equivalents. It will add up significant amounts of carbons to the atmosphere. So yes, the stakes are high, but the opportunity is huge. Now let's talk about the playing field. So our roadmap had to be creative because of a lot of, I would say, renewable energy regulations and policy, and the markets in our country is evolving. So our roadmap includes rooftop solar PV, energy efficiency measures, wayside energy storage system. For those of you who are niche about these terms, is actually using regenerative braking to store and reuse energy, as well as purchasing renewable energy from state electric utility company, green energy as a service program. In short, we're combining what Jakarta Metro can do on its own and also what it can buy from the grid. Let's dive into the first two strategies. So energy efficiency measures. Um, these are smart tweaks like, optimizing the equipment, adjusting temperature set points, and also, using occupancy sensors. It saves a significant amount of energy, more than 1,000 megawatt hour annually, and cuts nearly 900 tons of carbon dioxide per year. So these are actually a low-hanging fruit. Small changes with quick paybacks, many are under 3 years. The wayside energy storage systems, this use regenerative braking, capturing energy when the trains slow down. So it's like giving the train a second wind without needing a power. So technologies like supercapacitors and flywheels can actually save the braking energy, store it, and then reuse it later. It saves quite a significant amount of energy, so more than 7,000 megawatt hour per year, and avoids around 5,100 tons of carbon dioxide per year. So next up, solar. Um, this is interesting. So we evaluated all Jakarta Metro existing facilities for solar retrofits. A pilot project followed by a phased approach, a phased rollout, could install 8.8 megawatt of solar capacity that would generate 11.7 gigawatt hour per year. It's covering 18% of the current total energy consumptions, which is quite significant. And it would avoid 8,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. And sunshine is free and doesn't ask for overtime pay, so it's a win-win solution. Next, yeah. So even with the solar PV, the energy efficiency, the WES, Jakarta Metro will still need to buy renewable energy from the grid. You see on the slide, to hit 75% of renewable energy by 2030, they'll need to purchase around 70,000 megawatt hour, and by 2040, for 100% renewables, that jumps into more than 500,000 megawatt hour. What does it mean? This means Jakarta Metro need to work closely with the state electric utility company, and then leveraging programs like green energy as a service to secure clean energy supply. So, okay, so this picture shows the emission avoided through all measures. If you see the positive figures, is actually the carbon, the emissions emitted from the operations, from the electricity use, while the negative values is the avoided emissions. So by 2040, with full implementation of all these strategies, Jakarta Metro could eliminate all greenhouse gas emissions from electricity use. Compared to a liberalized energy market, of course, Indonesia path is more constraints, but Jakarta Metro approach is actually pragmatic, scalable, and replicable to for other emerging markets with similar regulatory and economic background with Indonesia. So in summary, Jakarta Metro's journey toward decarbonization is both ambitious and achievable by combining solar PV, regenerative braking, energy efficiency, and also strategic renewable energy procurement. The metro system can significantly reduce its energy from electricity, significantly reduce its carbon footprint from electricity use while continuing to serve the growing urban populations. And thank you so much for staying awake. I hope this content worth the caffeine. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now let's open the floor for questions. Anyone? Yes, sir.
I hope it's not a difficult question.
Thank you for your presentation. My name is Dio. I'm from Indonesia. Honestly, I'm from the another session, room 304. But
Okay.
intentionally, I want to see your presentation because I'm
Oh,
from
thank you. I'm so honored.
because I think for the all presentation there's only two title that related about the railway.
Okay.
You and me
Oh, okay.
because
Oh.
I'm from MRT Jakarta.
Okay.
Okay, and hopefully you can see my presentation after the last
Oh,
coffee break.
certainly.
May I know, the first one is what the scope of what the definition of the metro Jakarta? Is it cover all railway metro or just one mode transportation?
Okay. The story is I cannot disclose the name of the company, so I use these general terms. It's actually
Okay, see.
please keep it secret. It's actually a mass rapid transit.
I see.
Yeah.
Because your presentation it's quite similar with what I did. It's quite, the number, the target is quite same. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah.
And I uh, just want know your perspective. Yeah. Um, to achieve the net zero emission or clean operation, there's some recommendation, solar PV, regenerative braking, etc., etc. What do you think? Why several operation mode of transportation is not limited to MRT but another LRT, KAI, etc., KCIC? Why still not taking into account the sustainability aspect to the corporation or for the operation for the operational as well? Is it in terms of because the high cost for the infestation or what do you think?
Yeah, it's actually the reasons is quite complex. So in terms, first is obviously in terms of capitals, it requires significant capital upfront. But if you want to know more about this study, you can reach out to me. I can give you more explanation about this. But actually, in terms of finance, it's doable. So there are a lot of SIM that can accommodate this. So this can be implemented. So the first is the upfront cost. The second one is also, based on my personal opinion, is actually a conflict of interest with the state electric company as well. As we want to decarbonize, sometimes we need to procure renewable energy directly to the power producers, and sometimes because the monopoly of transmission and distribution infrastructure is hard to do so, although we have the regulation. And the solar PV itself, there is a limit, right? If you know, the regulation is limit up to 20% of so we can install the solar PV, but in terms of electricity, it cannot exceed 20% of your total electricity consumption. So it's tricky, to be honest. Um, and the other one is the finance. I think a lot of the financial sectors in Indonesia itself is not yet fully understood and fully aware with this. Like energy efficiency is a low-hanging fruits there. There is a SIM which is called ESCO. If you ever heard about this, can be implemented, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of frauds and misunderstanding back then is not yet successfully implemented in Indonesia. So the financial sectors is not giving the 100% commitment yet into this area. So I can see that it's hard to get the funding, but actually come back again, it's more about the leadership. If the I would say if the company leadership have a strong commitment in to decarbonize, everything can happen. To be honest, that's my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you. I think it's enough.
Yeah,
So it's back to the leader willings.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is comes to yeah, come back to the leadership.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think
Oh,
I would have to agree with that, no? That it really needs the leaders and commitment also to decarbonize or
yeah.
implement renewable energy. Any more question? I think there is none. Thank you very much, ma'am,
Yeah.
for that comprehensive discussion. And we'll now proceed to the next presenter on quantifying the emissions and operational costs of the Philippines Green Energy Option Program, to be presented by Giancarlo Pocholo Enriquez.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Okay. Uh, oh, hold on. Hi, I'm Poch. I'm Poch Enriquez from the Climate Reality Project Philippines. We're a climate NGO based in the Philippines, and we have a lot of programs in addressing the climate crisis. And one of these is the energy program. So for our energy program, we wanted to focus on this certain government program called Green Energy Option Program, which I will discuss on later. But first, a bit of a background. So the Philippines is highly vulnerable to the effects of climate change. We ranked first for 4 straight years as the country with the highest risk from extreme weather events. So this year, with the successive typhoons Krising, Dante, and Imong, the large parts of the country were inundated with floods, and which revealed a lot of the corruption cases in the Philippines. But essentially, for the Philippines, addressing the climate crisis is more than a corporate PR or some greenwashing. So for us in the Philippines and neighboring ASEAN regions, it's a fight for our survival. So in 2021, the Philippines emitted 237.6 megatons of carbon dioxide equivalent, and more than half of that comes from energy. So specifically, electricity generation. In the Philippines, our installed capacity is mostly composed of fossil fuels. So you can see here coal with 12,428, followed by oil, then gas. We don't have nuclear yet, but it's in the plans of the government. But for our renewable energy, most of it comes from baseload sources. So we have hydro and geothermal, but it's still a little compared to our fossil fuels. We have solar with 1,530 and onshore wind with 427. But since these are variable plants, the development for these types of renewable energy leaves much to be desired. So currently in 2025, our energy mix is at 22% renewables, and the rest comes from fossil fuels. The government has a target of 35% by 2030 and 50% by 2040. And with those targets, most of that comes from solar and wind. So with this current power mix, the government's targets, they created this program called the Green Energy Option Program. So it's essentially a program that allows consumers to purchase electricity directly from renewable energy power plants. So under the Green Energy Option Program, the procurement choice goes to the consumer. But usually, under the captive market, the procurement choice is created by the distribution utility or your electric cooperative. So with the Green Energy Option Program, that procurement choice shifts to the consumer. So if you're a business, instead of installing solar panels in your property, what you need to do here under the Green Energy Option Program is sign a contract with a renewable energy supplier. Then with that contract, it tells you that your electricity comes from RE instead of fossil fuels. So if you're a business with an electricity consumption of 100 kilowatts per month, you are eligible for the program. So what we did here is, since this is a relatively new program, we wanted to quantify the emissions and the financial cost savings that you get from the program. So we assessed GEOP registered meters from December 2021 to September 2025. We excluded those with less than 6 months of participation in order to ensure that you have the proper experience and insights as a company. Next, we gathered data on power consumption, generation costs, and generation rates. Then lastly, we created two models, the GEOP scenario and the business as usual scenario. So as of September 2025, there are 736 registered meters under the program, and it has an excellent rotation rate of 97%, which translates to around 20 companies leaving the program since its inception in 2021. So as you can see, the trend is increasing, and we expect to see more companies participate in the program. Most of these companies come from Luzon, which is one of the major island subgroups in the Philippines, and a lot of these come from the real estate sector. So if you're from the real estate sector and you have a mandate to transition to RE, instead of installing a lot of solar panels, what you want to do is go to GEOP because it's a cost-effective program for you to transition to RE. So based on the models that we created, we found that GEOP cuts carbon emissions. So mean emissions under the business as usual scenario were 4.5 times as high than those under GEOP. So we created two models, then we put them under one-way ANOVA after lateral logarithmic transformation. Then we can see that there's a significant difference between GEOP and the business as usual scenario. So as a GEOP user, on average, you reduce 1.2 million kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions per year. So that is a lot, and under the program, you can trade it through renewable energy certificates that you can trade under the voluntary renewable energy market or submit to your mother companies internationally. Next, we also wanted to see that GEOP is murang kuryente, which is cheap electricity in Filipino. So we found that mean electricity costs under GEOP were significantly lower than the business as usual costs, which translates to a 29% reduction. So again, we did a one-way ANOVA after natural logarithm transformation, and we found that there is significant difference between the two scenarios. So as a company, you are saving around 4.3 million per year under the program, which roughly translates around to 75,000 USD. So yeah, mostly that's the results of our study. We found that GEOP benefits companies' operational expenses and strengthens sustainability profiles. There's still a lot of barriers. So one of those is limited public awareness. It's a baby program. It started in 2021. And there's regional disparities in adoption. So most of it comes from Luzon. There's around 2 to 3 companies in Mindanao right now, and 20% comes from Visayas. And there's limited RE supply allocated to the program. So that's something that we are trying to work on with the government. Lastly, most of the companies under GEOP are from the private sector, and they're a crucial component for the Philippines' clean energy transition since the rising demand for RE through these kinds of programs will continue to drive down power prices. So yeah, that's it. We have a preliminary report for this study that you can scan over here. And yeah, thank you so much. What we hope to see is have GEOP, the Green Energy Option Program, replicated to neighboring regions in the ASEAN. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Enriquez. Do we have questions from the floor? Questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Sir Poch, for your insightful presentation. So, for those who aren't from the Philippines, we have been experiencing a lot of disasters as of recent. past few weeks, past few months. I just want to know where does GEOP come in when we talk about disaster resilience? I want to know your thoughts about that.
Okay. So essentially, GEOP is still an on-grid type of program. So it doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't really help much in terms of off-grid electrification. But we see GEOP as a way to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. So for now, uh, what we've been seeing or hearing for the past few sessions that we're hearing is fossil fuels create a lot of our base load in the Philippines. But in the Philippines, it's kind of unique because we have too much base load. And because we have too much base load, it's creating problems for us in terms of intermittency and energy security. So what with GEOP, since it creates demand for renewable energy, we're expecting to see more and more renewable energy plants that will help suffice the targets of the Philippines. And in terms of disaster, it's more of an emissions reductions type of program.
All right, thank you very much.
Any more?
Any more questions? I do understand it's a technical policy from the Philippines, but it's hopefully something that we could replicate within the region.
Let me ask one more question, sir. I think it was mentioned that there is low public awareness about the
Yes.
program. So, what are your strategies, or what are you doing as a entity to increase the public awareness about you?
Yes, thank you for that. We're an NGO, so we've been working closely with our Department of Energy in terms of first policy review. We know that there's still a lot of problems in the program in terms of adoption, and so we've worked closely with DOE to address that. We're doing some information campaigns nationwide. Last year we did something in Cagayan de Oro, and we're happy to announced that the first switcher from Mindanao came from Cagayan de Oro. So it's something that we are really passionate about. It's a unique program of the Philippines. It essentially helps businesses transition to renewable energy without the capital cost associated to it. So it's something that small and medium enterprises can really take advantage of.
So, a round of applause for Mr. Enriquez. Thank you very much, sir, for that
Thank you
presentation.
so much.
Now, let us proceed with the last presentation. Actually, this is my own study. So let me just present quickly my own study. So uh, it is on the potential of phytomining and bioenergy integration for sustainable rehabilitation of nickel mined out areas in the Caraga region, Philippines. This study explores how we can transform mining legacies, particularly nickel laterite mine waste, into valuable resources through phytomining and bioenergy integration approach. So the Philippines ranks second to Indonesia in terms of nickel production, nickel laterite production, according to the World Nickel Fact Book in 2024. So our region, the Caraga region, is known as the mining capital of the Philippines, hosting 21 active nickel laterite mines covering about 150,000 hectares. But this 150,000 hectares is just 7.5% of the approved mining tenements in the area. However, low-grade ores, those with less than 1.2% nickel, are left behind, and these materials still contain heavy metals, which pose serious environmental threats if unmanaged. Thus, there is a pressing need for sustainable rehabilitation strategies that are both ecologically sound and economically possible. So the concept of phytomining involves cultivating hyperaccumulator plants, or the plants that can extract, store high levels of metals from the soil. So plants absorb metals through their roots, and the biomass is harvested and burned. So metals are then recovered from the resulting ash. So the process is more environmentally friendly than hydrometallurgical process, and it is effective for low-grade ores. However, it has limitation because of low metal recovery, the long growth of plants, and the challenging condition of the mine sites for plant growth. Bioenergy, on the other hand, is a renewable energy source derived from the biomass or organic materials such as plants, agricultural residues, and waste. So the previous presenter presented that the Philippines is on the renewable energy track in terms of our energy source. Okay, so and we have this at least two uh, Philippine laws on that is related to renewable energy, and specifically the biomass. So we have the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, which promotes renewable sources, including biomass, and the Biofuels Act of 2006, which mandates the blending of bioethanol and biodiesel with conventional fuels. These policies open pathways for sustainable energy generation from plant-based feedstocks, aligning with our phytomining concepts. So phytomining and bioenergy integration, we create a closed loop model, which is from soil remediation, the biomass production, and the energy and metal recovery. So this integration allows us to convert mine waste into valuable resources, reduce the carbon emissions by using renewable biomass, promote resource recovery and mine rehabilitation, generate green jobs and community livelihoods, and contribute to the circular economy and sustainable development goals. So in essence, it's waste to resource innovation, turning environmental liabilities into opportunities. So application to Caraga region. So as I mentioned, Caraga region is an ideal setting for this model because we have a vast nickel laterite mines supply the substrate for phytomining and the soil rehabilitation. So after the mined out or after the extraction of the minerals, we have hectares, thousands of hectares of lands which cannot be used for agricultural, by the way, because this contains still heavy metals. So soil remediation, hyperaccumulated plants improve soil quality and restore mined out landscape. We have biomass utilization. The harvested biomass can fuel bioenergy systems, providing off-grid power for local communities. And we have metal recovery. Metals like nickel and cobalt can be extracted from the bio ore, and local economy. It contributes to the local economy. Communities benefit from green jobs and diversified income. And also, sustainability impact. It advances low carbon development and a just transition in mining areas. So based on our findings in our study, there are plants, hyperaccumulator plants, which are already growing in the mined out areas. And these are the following. These are scientific names. And these species can accumulate nickel and chromium. And however, based on estimated accumulation rates, it would take thousands of years to completely remove the nickel and other metals from the soil. So, but when integrated with bioenergy production, its economic value significantly improves. So the challenges and considerations in bioenergy integration, we have limited research and pilot projects. Most studies are still at laboratory scale. The technical and infrastructure gaps, we lack the local facilities for efficient metal recovery and biomass conversion. Also, economic viability, there is low yield and long growth cycles, hinder short-term profitability. And policy gaps, there is no specific regulatory framework yet for phytomining and bioenergy integration. And we also have environmental risk because weather extremes like typhoons and droughts may affect plant survivals. And financing barriers, few investors currently support green mining innovations. And for our outlook, so we hope to, despite the challenges, the potential in Caraga region is immense. Phytomining and bioenergy integration represents a sustainable dual resource strategy linking mine rehabilitation with renewable energy generation. So it aligns with the country's energy transition and circular economy goals under the Philippine Energy and Mineral Energy Roadmaps. Actually, we are also conducting study on the feasibility of putting the solar farms in mined out areas, so to avoid the competition between agricultural lands and the agricultural lands for solar farms. So in the long term, we envision establishing phytomining bioenergy hubs in Caraga, serving as models for sustainable, regenerative, and circular mining in the Philippines. So in conclusion, the urgency of addressing climate change and transitioning to a sustainable energy solutions cannot be overstated. Each of us has a crucial role to play in supporting the adoption of green energy practices and technologies, including the mining sector. Any question? Questions? None? With that, I would like to close this session on the title. Okay, energy, environment, and climate policy. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention, and I hope you will stay for the next session. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the 2025 IGA. So I will be the chair of this session, the last session. Actually, my name is Ambi Abdullah. I'm from the ASEAN Center for Energy. Nice to meet you all. And for your information, after this last session, we will have the Best Presenter Award that will be announced in public hall. So we will ask for your present. Who knows that you will be the winner of the Best Presenter Award for this 2025 IG. So now, without further ado, uh, our session, we will have 5 presentation, but now only 4 presenter confirmed already in the room, and while waiting for another presenter, the last presenter, allow me to start our session with the first presenter, Mr. Jos Mari. Okay, so Mr. Jos Mari, he will present the paper towards sustainable transport scenario-based insight on off-grid hybrid microgrid for charging EV smart buses. Is it Philippine case? Because microgrid is one of the specific characteristic from Philippine energy system. Yeah. Okay, so you will have 15 minutes. You can manage 10 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for Q&A. In case your presentation takes longer than 10 minutes, allow us to cut from your Q&A discussion time. Okay, thank you. Please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to present one of my research outputs entitled Toward Sustainable Transport, Scenario-Based Insights on Off-Grid Hybrid Microgrids for Charging EV Infrastructure. So I am a PhD student in Akita University in Japan, and I'm currently in my second year, so this is part of my requirements being a doctoral student in Japan. So for a background, the pictures you can see on this picture are actually in the Philippines from last February and March. It's part of my overseas internship, part of my Japanese government scholarship. So please be guided by the outline of my presentation. I will give a brief background, some methods and approach, because this is also an ongoing study, and some main results, and as well as recommendations and conclusions of this study. So as a background, the Philippines actually has the most expensive electricity rates in the ASEAN region. We are just after Japan and Singapore. We have very expensive power rates, and we are also having a lot of increased EV adoption, not just for private passenger EVs, but also for e-bikes, e-jeepneys, e-buses, e-trucks, all across the board. And as of March 2025, we have roughly 912 charging stations, which are mostly in the urban centers such as Metro Manila. And there is a lack of development in the charging infrastructure in provincial areas. And part of these initiatives include the academia. One example is from the University of the Philippines in Los Baños through their Green Mobility Initiative. And it's called LBEEP, or the Electric Light Bus for the Environment and Economy Partnership, which is aligned with the modernization program of jeepneys of the Philippine government. So as a background, the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, it has the largest campus in terms of land use, which is also including the Makiling Forest Reserve. It's an ASEAN Heritage Park. And it's powered by 99% renewable energy sourced from geothermal power plant in the Makiling Lukban power generation. And then the UPLB, or UP Los Baños, is actually, it has a very influential role in agriculture and biotechnology. And part of their initiatives actually not also for e-transport, but improving the campus in terms of adding bike lanes or for safety of pedestrians. And aside from the LBEEP or the e-Jeep, microbus. We also have the tipaklong. It's the Tagalog word for grasshopper. It's a e-bike service. It has a mobile app which has 22 stations across the campus. And actually, for the LBEEP, the situation right now is that they're sharing the charging of the batteries for the e-bikes and the e-jeep. And as a review, when we talk about EVs, we're primarily focusing on battery electric vehicles. Now, across the board, we have plug-in hybrids. We have also FCEV, powered by fuel cell hydrogen technology, and we also have specific vehicles with the range extenders, such as the BMW i3. But now we have a observation that not just in the ASEAN region, but globally, the Chinese players are predominantly the ones who are producing the battery electric vehicles. And we have to define not just battery electric vehicles, but also what an off-grid system is. So basically, an off-grid system is something that is standalone. It's not connected to a main electrical grid, and as well as a hybrid system. So when we hear the word hybrid, we talk about hybrid vehicles, but in the context of energy systems, hybrid systems are combining two or more sources of energy, such as, let's say, solar and wind, solar and battery. But when we talk about HRES, it's about hybrid renewable energy systems. And as well, we have to define EVCS, the hybrid electric vehicle charging stations. So we want to combine the hybrid renewable energy systems as well as the EV charging infrastructure for specific applications such as the one in LBEEP. Now, the picture you can see into your far right, that's actually an off-grid solar battery EV charging system in Griffith Observatory in California. So for this paper, what do we really want to do? We want to minimize the following objective functions. First is the NPC, or the net present cost. And then the next one would be the LCOE, or the levelized cost of electricity or energy, which are defined by the following equations. So through hybrid optimization software, we aim to minimize the following parameters. And this is the methodological framework and research design of this paper. It's primarily focused on knowing the electric load of different charging stations, what are the system constraints and economics, and through hybrid optimization and simulation, we can find the most optimal architecture for the best configuration for EV charging, as well as the cost economic parameters, and then most importantly, do we want to have a 100% renewable fraction, or are we going to use diesel generators? Whatever configuration you might have. Specifically for the UPLB campus, they are looking into using 100% solar energy. So what we want to do is we create an electric load profile for 7 units of the LB buses. So it's characterized by a fleet management that has a peak during rush hour. The primary users for these EVs are actually high school students. The university has a high school program which is off campus. It's found roughly 6 kilometers away from the main campus. And also the village that is primarily served by the staff and faculty of the university use these smart buses since November of last year. So what we need to do is plan where we charge, plan where there are a lot of users, also plan where we need to do battery backup systems. And then actually these buses are assembled also in the province of Laguna through a company that is also based in Yokohama in Japan. So these are powered by lithium iron phosphate, or LiPePO4 batteries. And actually they have just 2,000 battery cycle configuration, which is roughly 5 to 7 years when you talk about the life cycle assessment of these types of batteries. And then you need to find the electrical load profile for the day, for the season, for the year. Through hybrid optimization software, we will define whether they will be used in the weekdays or on the weekend. And what we have found is that from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., that's where all the demand for the use of these charging stations will be put. And then some results and discussion that I can present to you in this forum would be through optimization, we have found that this configuration combining wind, solar, and a battery through an inverter, we find that there is an estimated LCOE of 0.886, which is actually a bit high when you talk about LCOE of hybrid renewable energy systems. And then these are some power output graphs for solar, wind, and the monthly and solar wind power production in megawatt hours. And we have found through various renewable energy configurations, like we also tested for biomass generators, for combining also biomass with wind and as well as solar and wind and biomass. When you combine these sources, you have a very low LCOE. And most importantly, this graph. So we did multiple scenarios, multiple simulations. You can see with the graph, the red portion of this graph, that it's a very dense cluster that most of these configurations have moderate emissions and manageable cost and techno-economic parameters. Whereas in the area of the purple one, you have high high operation and maintenance costs, but lower CO2 output. And what does that mean when we lead to the main recommendations and conclusions of this study? When you talk about microgrids, we want to find the balance between emission and costs, especially in the ASEAN region. You cannot really put a lot of capital influx into renewable energy because some areas, especially off-grid areas, require higher investment for operation and maintenance. And then for higher CO2 emissions, what do you prioritize? When you are in a urban setting, do you want lower pollution or do you want to save money in terms of operation and maintenance? And actually this research, we believe that it could add to future advancements in EV minibus technology, as well as integrating it with other EVs such as scooters, bicycles, and small passenger vehicles. So this study would not be possible without the support of the Japanese government through the Japan Science and Technology Agency, through the SPRING program, and we also want to thank the University of the Philippines Green Mobility Initiative, Assemble Point Philippines, the developer of the smart buses, and as well as the Samahan ng Nagkakaisang Drivers and Operators ng Los Baños, the group that primarily operates these smart buses. Thank you very much for your attention. Arigatou gozaimashita. I am very much open to any questions. Thank you.
For your very good time management you make. Yeah. So I would like to invite one or two questions, or one maybe from audience, from other presenter.
Any questions?
Yeah. Any
Or else I
question?
will ask the question. No, I'm kidding.
No, you cannot. So I would like to ask one question. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
The discussion on the EV is one of the hot issue in ASEAN, especially when we talk about the demand side management. Yeah, because transport is one of the highest sector consume energy in ASEAN. Yeah, I mean I know your case in Philippines, so I wonder about the but when we want to deploy EV, or we want to enhance the EV, accelerate the EV deployment in transportation system, we also need to think not only the EV itself, but also the infrastructure. Yeah, especially EV on the battery charging station. How do you find in case of Philippines for this one? And do you also consider this factor into your research part, especially when you talk about the cost? Yeah. Thank
Right. That's a very pressing question. So let me just lay down that right now in the Philippines, the development of new charging infrastructure is catering to passenger vehicles, to private citizens. And personally, I do not find it fair that the riding public does not benefit from this transition. And one reason why I really pushed for this paper is because this is the 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 primary users of these smart buses is the riding public, and not since they're sharing the charging right now with electric bikes, you want all of the charging infrastructure to be inclusive. Now, the shopping malls in the Philippines, a lot of the shopping malls are introducing free charging for passenger vehicles, whether it's BYD or Toyota or other developers. How about the ordinary public, the someone who commutes to work, let's say from a rural area? They should also have the benefits of a very stable charging infrastructure. And in terms of cost, right now, the Department of Energy of the Philippines is actually subsidizing a lot of the energy costs. And since I mentioned also about we have the highest cost in ASEAN in terms of kilowatt hours, it's very unfair. We want to solve that using off-grid solutions. We want them to not just to be sustainable, inclusive, but they don't have to rely on the main grid just to power their EVs. Let me just also share that in terms of the social aspect, when they introduced these smart buses last November, there was a conflict with the tricycle operators in this area because they are not getting passengers anymore, because most of the people, they would choose the EV buses because it's cheaper, and the cost for riding a tricycle is 4 times the cost of riding the EV. So the local government units handling these smart buses, they need to get a proactive solution as to, you don't also want to leave behind the tricycle drivers. You also want them to still have the benefits of the transport sector and the riding public. So again, finding the balance between new technologies, new policies, new schemes, but also not leaving behind the social importance of EV infrastructure. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I would like to invite the second presenter, Muhammad Oza, that will present a paper on ensuring sustainable supply chain in Indonesia energy transition, legal and economic analysis on nickel traceability for renewable energy development. Yeah, I think you have 15 minutes in total, and you can manage 10-minute presentation and 5-minute Q&A. So, you are from INDEF or no?
From WRI.
Oh, from the okay.
My friend from
Uh,
India. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Muhammad Oza Krisnawan, and I forgot to put in my slides that I'm from WRI Indonesia, and together with my friends, Shamil, I will present our paper ensuring sustainable supply chain in Indonesia's energy transition based on economic analysis and legal analysis to ensure that our nickel has its traceability for renewable energy development. Well, as we know, nickel is a critical input for batteries used for electric vehicle and grid storage for renewable energies. And Indonesia is the world's largest nickel ore producer, accountable for 54% of global nickel ore production in 2023. And as we know, nickel is also used in batteries, and battery demand for nickel was 370 kiloton in 2023. It's rise very very impulsively, and currently the policy market has its pressure to maintain the traceability of nickel, because For example, the EU battery regulation frame since 2023 and phase in from 2024 and 2025 are increasing buyer expectation for due diligence and digital traceability. These combinations, rapidly growing demand plus stronger buyer rules, gives Indonesia leverage, but also a responsibility to ensure traceability across the supply chains of the nickel. And then our problem statement is simple. There's traceability gaps in Indonesia nickel supply chain that hides environmental and social harms and risks to the market exclusion. Around nickel operation, we observe major environmental impact like declining water quality and quantity. We found a lot of nickel industry leakage that caused the water quality and quantity have decreased in several rivers in near nickel industry, like in Konawe, Morowali, and Halmahera, mostly in the eastern part of Indonesia where nickel are very high resources. And the second one is the air pollution concentration around nickel industry that are increasing due to mercury and heavy metal combustion, and also the leakage of high pressure acid leach, and also the nickel industry took a lot of land that caused a massive deforestation and led to clearing like thousands hectares of the forest with the mining concession. Here's the analysis that we are using, and we are using two methodology here. First, normative legal analysis, and the second one is for the economic analysis. We are using analytical hierarchy policy. And for the legal one, this is to examine how law addresses traceability, and we conducted systematic normative legal review on Indonesia's mining, trade, and environmental law, and key instrument analyzed, including this law called mining law, government regulation, ministry, etc. And also, we map overlaps, inconsistencies, and gaps, especially when licensings and reporting focus on volumes but not batch level provenance or public disclosure. This legal audit that we are already look into several regulation identifies where the statutory architecture supports traceability and where it does not. And the second one is the analytical hierarchy process, where we put some criterias into 5 level, and this criteria can map or representing how the stakeholder or the interviewees prioritize like economic growth, economic equality, environment, social, cultural, and governance. This is the process. Okay, this is what we find from our research on several regulations. Our first set finding shows important legal and institutional gap, like Indonesia's existing legal instruments emphasize licensing and production reporting, but there is no clear legal basis that mandates end-to-end supply chain traceability, also ESG disclosure and independent third-party auditing. And there's, in the institution, a lot of fragmented authority, overlapping, and mandates, and weak enforcement coordination. And also the transparency of our mining governance is not that good. There's no requirement for supply chain to disclose origins, smelter, buyer report are internal, and it's hard to access by the public. And then we also have Simbara. It's like a monitors for production, export, but not batch level tracking. This is actually good for traceability, but it's not focusing on environment, hence it's focusing on state revenue leakage. And until now, no national traceability standard or digital chain of custody, and Yeah, Simbara, who is our currently traceability mechanism, but it's for state revenue leakage. It's supposed to be a traceability mechanism that more focusing on identify environment and compliance tracker along with the state revenue leakage. And then also the enforcement and sanction. There are cause of fragmented authority, overlapping mandates. There will be a weak enforcement coordination. And then the trade and market access, because we are not ready, we don't have such a regulation that are enacted the traceability. There are risks of EU or US market exclusion under new SG report standard because they have a certain regulation like EU battery and OECD, IRMA, and etc. This is the lack of traceability can undermine investor confidence and expose producer to greenwashing claims. This is dividing comparison of criteria where most of stakeholders put economic growth, economic quality, environment, and socio-culturals in order based on most prioritized. Okay, I could skip this. So what we already find from our research, the first one is the weak traceability frameworks leads to weak accountability, where also a fragmented oversight and no certain public reporting and create regulatory blind spot. And this mandatory disclosure and data are needed to ensure legal credibility and prevent greenwashing, because we don't have it right now here in Indonesia. And the second one is global buyer now require verified origins and traceable nickel risk trade barriers and investor withdrawal. And the last one is hidden supply chain, obscure ecological damage and social conflict. It's already happened in several areas in Indonesia. This is what we are proposing to the government for the better governance of nickel industry and renewable energy development. It's to enact a ministerial or presidential regulation that mandating end-to-end traceability for nickel that integrate ESG and human rights due diligence into mining permits. Also establish the platform or interministerial task force to harmonize data reporting and enforcement standard. The third one is expand Simbara, our current platform, a national traceability platform, not only focusing on state revenue leakage, but also focus on environment and sustainability and compliance. And the fourth one is to require public disclosure of supply chain data, including origin, processing, and ESG performance. We can also look at the EUDR traceability mechanism to put this into our action. And the fifth is develop national traceability and sustainability standard. It's we can align this with the EU battery regulation. And the last one is to involve small-scale minor local governments, IPLC, and civil society in system design to ensure fairness and social justice. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's interesting question. Maybe I would like to ask before asking the audience. You mentioned you apply the AHP,
Yes.
and I wanted to know like how many respondent did you choose? I mean, did you collect during the interview and our question?
Okay. We are two researchers, and my research is focusing on the legal and policy review. And this was the HP one is my friend. Maybe my friend can help me to answer the question.
The nickel mining. Yeah. So I went there and collected uh, some, data from our interview, and we transcript it. And after that, we uh, we you know put it into our program. I use like some library in Python to quantify it and create pairwise comparison metrics and then the AHP. I think like that with our questionnaires and so on. The sample was uh, I think around 20, but some of the samples didn't answer much of our questions. So we only put some uh, respondents that answer our questions. Can you move for the sample size
This one.
and the methodology? So we finally took only 15 from around 20 samples because go up one again. Yeah. And for the questionnaire, we also have the questionnaire, but it's not really structured because it was like discussions, not question answer. It was like more discussion, forum, FGD, and something like that.
Like structure interview, yeah.
Yeah, semi-structured interview. Yeah.
Thank you. And I would like to invite any question from the floor. No, okay. Okay, thank you so much, yeah,
Well,
for your
thank you so much.
presentation.
Good
And
afternoon.
yeah, thank you. So now I would like to invite our third presenter, Mr. Iputu Oka Julistia, who will present the impact of implementing tax incentive policy in geothermal sector on the achievement of Indonesia renewable energy mix. Okay. You have 15 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished guys, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Iputu Ocha Julistia from Polytechnic Keuangan Negara Stan, especially undergraduate of Finance and Management. So, saying good afternoon like this make me feel like I'm going to change the direction of the market. I know the financial people will understand what I mean. But today, I'm not going to talk about the economics, but about our future in the energy and environment. It's a great day to stand here in front of all of you guys at one of the ASEAN largest international conference. So today I want to take you on a journey into the heart of Indonesia energy policy. This study, entitled The Impact of Tax Incentive Policies in the Geothermal Sector on the Achievement of Indonesia Renewable Energy Mix. Okay, let's begin with the discussion with a fundamental truth. Energy is the heartbeat of our world. Energy is the fundamental element that support various human activities, from the household need until to the industrial. Generally, energy can be divided into two parts. First is renewable energy, and the two is sorry. Okay, and the two is the fossil fuel. So, from this graph, tell us the clear story about us in situation in Indonesia. Most of country in the world, national energy mix are still heavily dominated by the fossil fuel. Even Indonesia, based on data I collect from 2023, perhaps the last update, renewable energy only account for 15.3% of final electric demand, and electric only account for 70.9% of total energy demand. This is a legacy of the past, a dependence we can no longer sustain. The path we are currently is not a path to prosperity, but rather a path of crisis. The impact is no longer theoretical, so it's a reality we face every day. Look at our coral in the first picture, bleaching and dying due to the ocean acidification. So I just want to tell you that I'm come from Bali, an island known as a tourism destination. And for 20 years I live in Bali, everything was fine. Until the end of the last September this year, I discovered that for the first time, Bali experienced such extreme weather that near submerged parts of the island. And the second picture is the situation in Bali today. And then I continue my education in Jakarta, and the last picture is the situation, is the view in front of my eyes almost every time I go to about my activities in the city. And you know what? This is not a cloud, this is a pollution. Okay, amidst this challenge, there is a tremendous glimmer of hopes. Indonesia is blessed with vast renewable energy resources. Our potential is estimated to reach over 3,600 gigawatts. But look at the future. As of 2024, we have only tapped less than 0.5% of that potential. We are sitting on a gold mine of clean energy, but we have barely tapped it. Among all those resources, there is one giant sleeping under the Indonesia feet. That is geothermal energy. Indonesia holds one of the world's largest geothermal resources, with a potential of 23 gigawatts due to the strategic position on the global ring of fire. Recognizing this, the Indonesia government has set ambitious emission reduction target and launched a series of strategic policies. This include Presidential Regulation Number 112 of 2022, and most relevant to this research is a series of tax incentives designed to awaken this potential. First, exemption from the government-borne geothermal income tax, or in bahasa we call PPHDTP. Second, exemption from the import duty for geothermal sector, and the last and the three, land and building tax reduction for geothermal mining business activities during the exploration stage. Okay, this brings us to the core question of the research. We have tremendous potential and seemingly supportive policies, but the crucial question is, do these policies actually work? Therefore, the objective of this research are twofold. First, to critically analyze the actual impact of this geothermal tax incentive on our national renewable energy mix targets, and the second, based on evidence, to provide concentrate actionable policy recommendation to sharpen policy tools in Indonesia. To maintain the research focus, this research limit the analysis to three key policies: exemption from government-borne geothermal income tax first. Second is exemption from import duty for geothermal, land and building tax reduction for geothermal mining or business activities during the exploration stage in Indonesia. And then analyzing data from 2016 until 2023. Sorry. Next. Okay, thank you. This research used grand theory of sustainable development. This theory emphasized that economic development must be integrated with environment conservation and social welfare. For the middle, the first is Porter hypothesis, a theory that states that strict environmental regulation can stimulate corporate innovation. And the three, the theory of planned behavior, psychological theory that explains that an individual intention to behave is influenced by the three main factors. First, attitude toward the behavior, subjective norm, and the perceived behavior control. And third, Keynesian theory, which examines the role of government as a trigger for economic incentive. So this research began with identifying a phenomenon where the good policy intention do not always produce the desired results. Based on this theory and previous research, this research hypothesis is that just tax incentive X1, X2, and X3 have a measurable positive impact on the share of new and renewable energy in our national energy mix. Okay, let's look closer at the most effective incentive. This is the research method I used in this research. To test this hypothesis, the research used an explanatory quantitative research design. We collected data from official government resources, including the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Finance. The analytical method used is multiple linear regression. And then this is the result of the data when running with this data. Okay, we directly move to the discussion. First, income tax is borne by the government. The main result has a positive and statistically significant effect on renewable energy share. The causal mechanism, first we know that government borne income tax lower project costs, then raise NPV and improve bankability, so relax financing constraint, then accelerate investment and capacity relation in geothermal or ABT. And the second, on import duty exemption, the main result is the import duty exemption show a negative statistically insignificant coefficient in the model. The mechanism, in principle, import duty exemption lower capital expenditure by reducing equipment costs. So, improve project bankability, then accelerate move from planning to construction. However, if exemptions are occasional or small relative to total project cost, the net effect on realized capacity may be limited. Okay, the next, land and building tax reduction. The main result, this reduction of PBB, or we call it in Indonesia, has to be positive but statistically insignificant coefficient in the model. So the theoretical mechanism, PBB reduction during the exploration lower upfront fiscal burden and exploration risk, increases the change developer proceeds to pre-sale and construction, then expand the pipeline of future geothermal capacity. This follow incentive tax theory and Keynesian fiscal stimulus logic. Okay, from all of that, we can take the conclusion that this study demonstrates that geothermal tax incentive policy play a crucial role in increasing the renewable energy mix in Indonesia. Based on the result of the regression analysis, it was found that tax incentive, particularly in the geothermal income tax, significantly impacted to the national energy mix. This aligned with Keynesian theory, which emphasized that government intervention through fiscal policy can stimulate economic growth and investment in strategic sector. However, not all tax incentives had a significant impact. That variable for land and building tax reduction and import duty exemption on import of goods for geothermal activities did not significantly impact to the national energy mix. This finding confirmed that the success of fiscal policies depends not only the provision of the tax incentive, but also on the other factors such as regulatory certainty, investment attractiveness, and infrastructure readiness. So the recommendation of the policy, the first, improving the fiscal incentive, the second, improving regulatory certainty, and the last, the most important is facility relocation. That's like the government can be relocate the facility that do not have a significant impact to the facilities that do the maximize the impact. Okay, that concludes my presentation. The journey to a sustainable energy future in indeed complex, but with the data-driven policies, we can ensure that our incentives are not only well-intentioned but truly effective. We can awaken the sleeping giant beneath of our feet, and doing so to realize sustainable energy for Asian prosperity. Thank you for your attention. I will not be happy to answer any question you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Iputu.
Yes.
Can I call you Iputu? So, thank you so much. So, I would like to invite a question from the floor. Is there any question? So maybe I will ask. It seems like examiner. Okay, it's interesting. You mentioned you apply like regression analysis, yeah.
Yeah.
So would you let us know like what are dependent and independent variables in
Okay.
your
Um. Wait. Okay, about the dependent and the independent. Okay, in this research, the dependent variable I use the first uh, in Y, NRA in energy mix achievement in Indonesia, and the independent variable, the X1 is income tax is borne by the government, the X2 or in Indonesia in bahasa we call pajak penghasilan ditanggung pemerintah, and the X2 I use import duty exemption or biaya masuk dibebaskan or in bahasa, and X3 land and building tax reduction or in bahasa we call penghapusan pajak bumi dan bangunan.
you use for NRE in energy mix achievement?
Okay, I use the proportion of the renewable energy
Percentage.
percentage, yes.
And
Percentage
what
per
are the unit in your independent variable?
Sorry?
What are the unit on X1, X2, and
Oh,
X3?
in the independent variable, I use the amount of the tax government spending, and that's I get the data from the Ministry of Finance in Indonesia.
Years you collected?
The years
The time period.
from 2016 until 2024, and that's the data only have in Indonesia. The last is in 2024, and from the website and the Ministry of Finance, I found that the first document published in 2026.
Thank you so much. Are there any other question? No? You want to ask? Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Putu.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, I would like to invite the fourth presenter. Before that, I would like to ask whether Miss Delvira is here. No? Ah, okay, okay. So we have the last presenter. Okay. So now I would like to invite the fourth presenter, Muhammad Najihul Fajri, who will present about the strategy to support energy independence, the role of governance in strengthening household energy resilience and decarbonization in Indonesia. Yeah. Maybe we should cut 12 minutes. That is okay.
I think it's fine because
Yeah. Okay, you have 15 minutes in
Oh, okay.
total. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry. This one, I'm sorry. I can stand my laptop here. Okay, like this maybe. Okay. I think we'll be alright. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Muhammad Najikul Fajri. I'm as a leader in this project. I'm from Universitas Diponegoro. I go to the Universitas Diponegoro as the junior lecturers, sure, in 2024, and previously I work at the Central Bank of Indonesia, Bank Indonesia. So I resigned from Bank Indonesia and entered to this institution. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think I would like to present my research paper. The title is A Strategy to Support Energy Independence, the Role of Governance in Strengthening Household Energy Resilience and Decarbonization in Indonesia. This is my partner, Andini Kusumawardani, from the same university, and Isnawati Hidayah from the Leiden University, Netherlands. I'm sorry.
No. Okay. Yeah. This is my outline. Yeah, you can see. Sorry. Uh, is my outline. The first is introduction. And secondly is model setup in the microeconomic theory. Also the methodology, results and discussion, and the conclusion. Yeah. This is our motivation for this research. You see that for the first pictures is about the inequality between the energy consumption in decile of the expenditures using Susanas, and in the right hand side is about the electricity, I'm sorry, the typo, electricity consumption in a provincial level. So it is the two kind of the problem in our country, Indonesia. So I think the energy poverty in Indonesia remain safer, especially in the rural and remote area, relying on a traditional fuel like firewood and etc. And secondly is about the around of the 83.1 million people lack electricity access, and 122.8 million still use firewood to for cooking, based on the Susanas. And also here, we jump to the next motivations. Yeah, it's about the carbon dioxide damages and environmental quality index that built from the Ministry of the Forestry and Ministry and Environment. I'm so sorry. The Indonesia may face major decarbonization challenge as one of the Southeast Asia largest carbon emitter. And the second is about the transitioning to the renewable is essential, but hindered by high costs, weight regulations, and the technology gaps. And lastly is about the integrating the policy approach is needed to ensure affordable and a sustainable energy access for all. So this is the previous or the prior study to cover up our hypothetic research. Yeah, for the firstly maybe local environmental government is a crucial for addressing energy poverty and promoting the carbonizations and etc. Until this research objective is to formulate strategy for strengthening the local environmental governance to alleviate the energy poverty and enhance the decarbonization in Indonesia. So I jump to the next, microeconomic theory to build our hypothesis. So I use the utility function to maximize the utility function subject to the budget constraint. We gather the optimum on the marginal rate of substitution is equal to the marginal rate of the techniques maybe. Let's say the marginal benefit is equal to the marginal expenditure, MB equal to the ME. So the tendency between the indifferent curve and the budget line is the maximize utility. So this is the Slatsky equations. We are using the Roy identity and the Sepak lemma equations. So we get the substitution effect and the income effect. I'm sorry, it's very bad. So there are two kind of the information in this slide. For the left-hand side is about the low-income household, and the right-hand side is about the high-income household. For the low-income household, the high energy budget set is strong income effect. So it's very difficult to the lower income group, yeah, to get the better energy maybe, and etc. And we jump to the next level of the income, maybe high income, yeah, smaller energy share, yeah, weak income effect and the substitution dominated. And also we jump to the next lump sum and how about the government cash transfer adding in our new income in every household. So the right hand side of this equation, y plus t, is the lump sum cash conditional transfer that delivered by the government. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the model framework of our microeconomic theory. Yeah, the maximized utility is in the point of H in our graph. So we jump to the data and the research framework. We are using the two kind of the data. For the firstly is the micro data using the Susanas 2022 and PODES 2021. Also for the panel data using municipally level data around maybe for 514 municipally in Indonesia during 2019 to 2024, like this. So this is the empirical model for our research. Yeah. The left-hand side is about the probability of the poverty energy, and the main of our independent variable is the cash transfers. This is two kind of the cash transfer mechanism. For the firstly, we get some in the left hand side and the right hand side. In the left hand side is about the decile incidence. Yeah, it's been that maybe absorptions in the other decile, maybe like this. And the second model is decile not incidence. So this is our results in the first stages. And the second methodology, we are using the, this one, the second model is decarbonization processes, followed by the incentive from the government using the spatial turbine model panel, yeah, and after we running, yeah, the model, we get some results, let's say the direct impact and the indirect impact. So how about the result in the second model? We can jump to the one. I'm so sorry, it's still a very bad. I think it's in PDF format. So this one is direct effect and the indirect effect in the central, and the last is the total effect. The direct effect is maybe from intra-regional. Yeah, sorry, the intra-regional. Inter is outside of the region. Intra is inside of the region. So the direct is intra and indirect is inter, like this. The total effect is the intra plus spillover. So the indirect is as known as a spillover. The direct is in intra-regional. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. We can see about the spatial effect in here. The local government and social assistance for environmental government have a positive direct impact. They help to improve local environmental quality through cleaner practice and higher public awareness. So for the second equations, for the second equation, the dependent variable is environmental quality index, or in our bahasa as known as index kualitas lingkungan hidup. Also is different from the first stages. For this first stages is energy poverty, and also how about the policy recommendation that we can propose to the government? Maybe I think a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 proposed to the government. For the firstly, maybe strengthen the targeting and the governance. Also, replace the poor subsidies with the lump sum transfer, and promote local environmental governance. Also, integrate the investment with environmental safeguard, and maybe two kind of the other is accelerate the clean energy is very difficult in our countries, and last one is enhance the spatial coordination between the direct from the outside of the polar cities or a central region that can influence the other region in outside of the province or municipally. Okay, I think that's all, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I can deliver to all. I beg your pardon for many mistakes. May God bless us. And please, if you have a question or response, yeah, let me know. Thank you.
It required a lot of data, I can imagine. And how many sample you have?
Oh yeah, okay.
Sorry, I directly ask question.
Yeah, of course.
It's interesting.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. You can jump to the in the in here. Sorry. Oh, previous. Like this. Okay. Around. In for the firstly, I declare in my abstract using Susanna's panel, cross sectional. Yeah, I think it's my research is still development in the next stages. I should to add my data to be a full cross section as known as panel. So the Susanna's in the future, I would like to adding 2019 to 2023. Or 2024. But in nowadays, in my presentation, the Susanas 2022 is around like this, maybe 338,000 household that we collecting from the Susanas. Also, the PODES is collecting by the village and aggregating by the municipality. And after that, we merge the Susanas and PODES to a compact data set. Also, we're running the model and find the household model, and for the first stages like this. Yeah, this is the first model from the Susanas. And second model, this is from Susanas too, but aggregation, yeah, from the previous data. Sorry, yeah, the aggregation from the 2019 to 2023. Yeah. So the aggregation from the 2019 and 2023, yeah, collecting by the panel data, and yeah, get this equation. So this equation is from a panel data I get from Susanas, yeah, in right hand side, but the natural logarithm of the incentive is from Ministry of Finance. Also, in the left hand side is from the Ministry of Forestry and Environment in Republic Indonesia. Like this, maybe. Yeah, I think that's all. My it's very difficult to running using data. I think like this. Yeah,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is the maybe. I propose three kind of the methodology for make sure our methodology as true or not. Yeah, we are using the qualitative approach. Let's say triangulations maybe and as extra.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's all my
Yeah.
research methodology that you know.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. I think we are running of the time.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's
Thank you so
okay.
much. Yeah. Okay.
Never
Maybe
mind.
we
Okay.
can
Yeah.
keep
Okay.
in
Thank you
touch
very
and
much.
discuss in the break session.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So now let me invite the last presenter, Miss Delvira and Miss Angela Fania Rustandi, who will present the policy pathway for circular economy in geothermal associated mineral extraction. Yeah, thank you. You have 15 minutes in total. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you're still on fire, even though this is the last presentation of the day. And this is Fania. We are both from Indonesia, and we're going to present a topic regarding geothermal sector seen through the lens of both technical and also legal aspects. The title is Policy Pathway for Circular Economy in Geothermal Associated Mineral Extraction. But first, let me show you a bit of geothermal overview in Indonesia. As you can see on the left-hand side, this chart shows that Indonesia currently stands as the second highest geothermal power generation capacity producer in the world. We stand at 2.3 gigawatts of produced geothermal, and it shows that geothermal is very important in Indonesia's energy landscape because long-term, it is a very reliable baseload power to replace coal in the long term, and the supply is very stable and consistent throughout the year. Geothermal is basically the heat that we harness from the earth to turn into electricity. To relate it into circular economy model, we have to look at Indonesia's NZE target. So our target is to reach it before the year 2060. Geothermal plays a very prominent role because we actually have a 23 gigawatt of potential energy, yet we only harness about 10% of it. So there's still a massive untapped potential for geothermal in Indonesia. If we look at geothermal, not just from electricity side, but also from its other use, be it from direct use, maybe direct heating, direct cooling, and also valuable mineral extraction, we can get a circular economy model. If we integrate both principles, circular economy into a geothermal development, we can transform geothermal from a single purpose energy into a multi-benefit sustainability driver. Now, I mentioned about the associated minerals. So imagine we have this water reservoir underneath the earth, and then this water comes in contact with many types of rocks. This rock then dissolves into the water, making the geothermal brine very rich in minerals. The example for it is silica and lithium. Many geothermal sites are globally exploring this geothermal extraction projects. The most prominent one is Salton Sea in USA. It is the most advanced geothermal lithium extraction site, having a concentration of lithium of almost 200 ppm. And then we also have the one in New Zealand, Ohaki. It developed not only lithium, but also silica extraction projects. In the UK, they also developed lithium projects and also exploring other potential on other minerals.
We identified that there are 4 key challenges relating to the geothermal mineral development. The first one is the legal uncertainties. So currently, Indonesian geothermal regulatory framework focuses on the utilization of geothermal for electricity sale, particularly to PLN as our sole off-taker. Mineral is actually included as part of geothermal energy, but there are no further regulations that address how this mineral could be developed. So it's uncertain on how the cooperation could be structured, the licenses required, and also the procedures that need to be undertaken. The second one is that although geothermal mineral is very valuable, it could also be depleted over time. Therefore, strategic planning is very essential, especially if the geothermal developers have several potential buyers and they need to allocate strategically the mineral that they would sell to those potential buyers. And the third one is that environmental impacts. Drawing from the lessons from the DN case study, actually the utilization of the geothermal mineral could reduce the environmental waste compared to if the mineral is left unutilized. However, we still need to be very precautious and undertake comprehensive feasibility study to ensure that there is no additional environmental burden conducted from the geothermal mineral development. And the last one is that economic viability, because even though geothermal mineral development could cover the financial viability gap that typically occurs in geothermal projects with high risk, the mineral development itself requires high upfront investment, additional operating expenses, and also the mineral sale is subject to market price that could be very volatile. And we would explain further these challenges in the DN case study that will be explained by Dalvira.
Okay, so let's take a look at DN case study. So this is the graph showing a full-scale geothermal utilization. We chose DM because it is currently the geothermal site in Indonesia with the highest concentration of silica and lithium. Bear in mind that Dieng is a wet steam reservoir. So when we drill the wells, we have not just the hot steam going up, but also the hot brine. So both go into the separator, and then they are separated with the hot steam going on your top hand side. So it goes into main geothermal power plant. It turns the turbine to produce electricity. And then the bottom side is our geothermal derivatives resource optimization. So with the brine with quite a high temperature, 180 degrees Celsius, first we extract the minerals. Currently we focus on just silica and lithium. Then afterwards, because it still has enough heat to produce more electricity, so we produce that through a binary power plant. And then the decreased brine is used for direct use, so maybe either direct heating, ecotourism, agro-industry, and then the rest of the brine, also the condensation is re-injected back into the earth. If we mention about silica in terms of geothermal field, usually it becomes a problem. You have scaling problems in pipes, in service facilities. In Dieng, we have a very high concentration of silica. It is more than 1,000 ppm. We try to look at it from a business perspective. If we develop it into a product, we can produce up to 8,000 ton per annum. We refer to the current price for, let's say, colloidal silica in the market. We have around 6,150 USD per ton. So roughly, if you calculate it, we can get annually around 48 million USD of benefit. So this adds not just economic benefit, but also helps with the operational of the geothermal power plant itself, because we remove the silica scale and we also lower the maintenance cost. Silica can be produced into various base materials such as silica powder, nanosilica, colloidal silica, and the product is the one that you can see on the right-hand side. Once we remove the silica, we can extract the lithium because the particle of lithium is very small. Dieng has a concentration of 62 ppm, so that amounts to around 2,190 ton per annum. Currently, the lithium carbon equivalent market price is below 10,000 USD per ton. This is due to global oversupply. But the market forecasts that the oversupply gap is shrinking and the price is expected to recover by 2026. LCE price is highly dependent on the market condition. If we take a look at the graph on your right-hand side, it shows that the demand for EV is actually rising because most countries right now are going into sustainable development by chasing their NZE targets. So we can forecast that EV demand is going to increase as time goes by, which in turn make the lithium demand also increasing. This shows that from 2020 to 2027, lithium's use in batteries, energy storage, and auto grows because it plays a critical role in the automotive industry shift to greener technologies.
And so considering the potential mineral development, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, or MEMR, has noted the urgency to prepare a regulation on the geothermal mineral development, and a minister regulation is currently being prepared. And drawing lessons from the Dieng case study and also the legal absence of the mineral development, we've proposed some items that could be regulated in the regulations. The first one is the licensing. It's very essential to know what kind of licenses that you need, including the timing and the procedures to obtain these licenses. It's essential to provide flexibility to the geothermal developers so they could apply for the licensing anytime during exploration or exploitation according to their business decision. And the second one, and the most important one, is the geothermal mineral development needs to be sustainable and also developed responsibly. This means that from the beginning, the geothermal developers need to be required to prepare a feasibility study, ensuring that the environmental damages are minimized and also socioeconomic benefits are maximized from this mineral development. And then to ensure regulatory oversight, MEMR needs to assess this feasibility study to ensure that the activities are environmentally feasible before providing their approval and issue the licenses. And also the geothermal developers need to be accountable and report annually and also periodically throughout the mineral development life cycle to the MEMR to ensure that they don't add additional environmental burden from their mineral utilization. And also the third one is that an overarching guidelines for the sustainable geothermal development could be developed from the mineral extraction until the mineral utilization and processing and utilization of the end product. This is very important because actually in Indonesia, The mineral utilization will be regulated under two ministries, the MEMR, or Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, for the mineral extraction itself, and the Ministry of Industry for the mineral processing and utilization of the end product. That's why there needs to be a synchronized and coordination between these two to ensure that the geothermal mineral development throughout the whole life cycle are sustainable. And incentives could also be given to industrial players that purchase minerals extracted from this brine that is extracted responsibly. That's all for our presentation today. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, we would be happy to discuss.
Yeah, thank you so much for make it timely. Yeah, within 10 minutes, I think. So I would like to invite one question. No? Yeah.
Sorry. Earlier you said that the geothermal source is split into two. If you are using for one for energy production, right? The steam, right? And this one is using the brine. So, but currently, there isn't any mineral extraction plant right now, is it?
Not in Indonesia, no.
Not yet, right? So, what happened to the brine as of now? Because, or is it the whole infrastructure isn't there yet, or currently only steam is used? Yeah. That's all.
Okay, thank you for the question. Currently, we only harness the electricity, so only the facility is only for steam into electricity. For the hot brine, we call it open canal in Dieng, in which we use it to deposit the silica, and then afterwards, once we make sure that the silica content is low enough, we re-inject it back to earth. So because we don't have any regulations to develop these yet, that's what we currently do, just to inject it back to earth after it is cooled.
So currently, the brine doesn't generate any profit or anything lah.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
So that's the main concern, right?
Yes.
The goal is to get something from the brine also. Is
Yes.
it? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, yeah, for your presentation. And now I think we come to the end of our session for this one. Thank you so much. I think personally I learned a lot from all the presentation. And now from 6 o'clock we will have the Best Presenter Award ceremony of the 2025 AICEE in the exhibition hall. So until 6 o'clock you are free to go for attending any session and also enjoy the break, the food on the break. Yeah, and I look forward to meeting you again on the exhibition hall for the public ceremony of the Best Presenter Award of the AICEE. And again, thank you so much for joining this year AICEE, and we look forward to welcoming you in the next year in Manila. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.